People from all over the world, both in Europe and America, gathered to watch the greatest meteor shower ever. This vision is very rare and is the only one in the last 10,000 years. We are introduced to ordinary children named Jake and Sadie Kittner. Their family is enlarged by Grandpa Lloyd and Dr. Alex Kittner, who is a professor of astrophysics. After a little family introduction, we connect with Roland Emerson, a man frantically in love with both his fiancée and his robot. The event is watched not only by regular families, but also by a host of journalistic filmmakers. Cameras capture the event so that the meteoric wonder is not left unnoticed. The long-awaited event finally happens, and enthusiastic onlookers, shocked to see the incredible nature. Viewers are transported to New Mexico, home of the largest space observatory. Professionals Dr. Matty Rhodes and Jared Albano point out that there is a strong possibility of meteorites crashing to Earth. If, 50 million years ago, the observing bodies collided, the debris of terrible meteorites would already be flying to the planet. The sole purpose of the crash would have been the destruction of all life on the beautiful planet. Immediately after saying that, they notice a strange phenomenon, a large near-Earth object heading for the moon. The asteroid is so large that its flight can be seen with the naked eye. Millions of people around the world are shocked by what they see. No one cares about the meteor shower anymore because they are witnesses to an incredible event. Special devices from scientists at the New Mexico Observatory show that because of the big collision, the moon has fractured. Now, pieces of the huge satellite are flying toward Earth at breakneck speed. High-ranking officials in the U.S., following the scientists' report, sent out information to residential areas. Their messages had important recommendations, the idea being to stay in shelters or homes. Moon debris could fall anywhere and cause irreparable damage. After reading an important message, people watch as the glowing pieces fly past them and cause a large fire. Scientists around the world watch in hopes of anticipating new deadly strikes. An understanding of the power and danger such an event can cause is beginning to come to people. A shard that fell on the coast of Australia led to a huge, unstoppable tsunami that overwhelmed much of the landmass. The terrible event led to a flood that flooded much of the land. Experts can't predict all the consequences the impact might have had. They think the flooding cannot be caused by one or more pieces of debris falling. Changes in the massives and the climate are occurring in isolated parts of the world that are not connected to each other. After the terrible news, the President of the United States is told that some action must be taken. Convening a council of the closest members, the doctor notes that an abnormal phenomenon has occurred as a result of the fall. The moon has become 30,000 kilometers closer to Earth, and this greatly changes the view of the future life of the population of the whole planet. Professor Alex Kittner previously developed a theory which is associated with anti-gravity. The essence of this project is that a special device was created which theoretically can lift heavy and large objects into the sky. However, there is no practical application of this theory, so the project has many questions. Events take place in Berlin, where Roland Emerson is greatly fascinated by the event and its consequences. The man is so worried about planetary problems that he can't even think about his own wedding. Dr. Matty Rhodes calls Professor Alex Kittner on the phone, asking for help because he is the best in the field. The man can come to help because of his parenting, so he invites Rhodes over. Kittner tries to pay a lot of attention to his own children as their mother recently died. So at a Jake Kittner baseball game, strange events occur that cannot be explained. A violent electrical shock passes through for no reason. Viewers are transported to Roland Emerson, who despite the pregnancy of his fiancée goes to town looking for debris that has fallen to Earth. It turns out that the scouts have found something unusual. Seeing a hole from a giant meteorite wreckage stuck in the ground, Roland was surprised because this find has magnetic force, attracting a mountain hammer. Meanwhile, in Canada, gas stations explode for no reason, with people saying they felt an electric shock before the explosion. Matty Rhodes arrives at Professor Kittner, where he and his assistant try to determine the causes of the anomalous events occurring around the world. The first thing that comes to mind is a change in the magnetic field due to a change in the moon's orbit. However, astrophysicists conclude that such changes are not so global. This question is quite controversial because it concerns not only magnetism but also gravity. The change in orbit could even change the mass of the moon, despite the strong energy waves. After the find, Roland calls his colleagues on the phone and shocks them with the subspecies of the debris found, which is a brown dwarf. This dwarf, it turns out, is a dead star, which after combustion shrinks to a small size. According to Roland, two stars collided with debris scattered throughout the universe. The moon took a much heavier hit than they thought. A particle of a brown dwarf got stuck in it, turning it into a giant magnet with an incredibly large mass. Together, scientists are figuring out the possible causes of the anomaly. The moon, which has become twice as heavy as the Earth, is rapidly approaching it. Scientists around the world investigating the sphere are demanding confirmation of the shift in the moon's axis from the main observatory in New Mexico. Dr. Rhodes arrives at the White House to explain the situation. After the conversation, the president provides everything he needs to investigate the change in the situation. Rhodes summons a team of top specialists, calling on his colleagues. The men's family is not ready to let them go, but they go to help nonetheless. The father of the deceased wife, Kittner, is not prepared to stay with his 2 children because he has certain psychological problems. Due to the death of his daughter, he cannot go outside the house, but still agrees, only because he understands the importance of the case. Rhodes has brought together the best observatory scientists from around the world, all working toward a common goal. Together, they determine that there are 48 hours left before the moon approaches the Earth again, which will not yield good results. Kittner then realizes that he will have to stay longer and asks the controlling woman from the White House to bring his children. A journalistic slacker, who is Rhodes' ex-husband, shows up. He doesn't want to miss his chance, so he rushes to write about the staggering events that might give him his job back. He arrives at Rhodes' house, but it turns out that the relationship between them is terrible. The ex-husband betrayed the girl because he thought he was unimportant to her. Martina Altman, Edward's fiancée, decides to visit her mother at this time. This decision is not at all happy with Roland, who forbids him to do so. On the train, the man makes a phone call for Martina to get off immediately. Although the woman does not believe it, she agrees to comply with Roland's request. Lloyd is so heartbroken that he cannot even talk about his own daughter. It pains him to stay with his children, who constantly want attention and stories. They often ask when Kittner will return, but the professor says only that a helicopter will come for them tomorrow. The old man flatly refuses to go to Washington. Kittner also takes the loss of his wife very hard. As he talks to Rhodes in a nice cafe, he tells him how much the children miss their mother. He tries to replace the role of mother and is always helping his little ones. At this time, another electrical discharge of great force occurs, which leads to certain malfunctions. Malfunctions manifest themselves at the main anomaly research headquarters. Another anomalous new event occurs in Europe, which is difficult to explain. Suddenly, people and objects lose their gravitational force and begin to rise directly into the sky. The authorities, who constantly follow the scientists' research, are shocked and cannot understand what is happening. What they see is beyond logic, so the authorities justify it with incredible phenomena and laws. Kittner notes that the moon does not just fall on the Earth, but attracts it like a magnet, which causes changes in certain parts of the world. However, having an insufficient energy field, it affects only large objects, houses, planes, people. Small objects, plants, or bugs are not affected by the gravitational force. While the moon is moving, we should expect new bursts of anomalous events of great force. They are planned not only in the US and Europe, but all over the world. The professor asked the authorized authorities, so to speak, to stop the world, all businesses, planes, cars, and leave people for the safety of the population. Shocked by the scientists' stories, the president's inner circle goes to report all the news. They question the professionalism of the scientists, and part of the staff insists on turning the task over to NASA. Meanwhile, Kittner tells Lloyd not to put children on the helicopter. It threatens great danger, but the old man does not perceive it. Television tells the entire population to stay in their homes, but even better in their basements. Reporters forbid the use of electrical appliances and urge to be very vigilant. It started, all appliances went out, people began to take off, followed by the Martina train. As suddenly as it began, so suddenly as it ended, but the train that had already flown off the tracks crashes, flying straight into the ground. The naked eye can see the proximity of the moon to the Earth. Grandpa Lloyd also sees this, as his neighborhood is left without electricity due to the static wave. The helicopter that flew out for the Kittner children crashed on its way to them. According to science, the moon has begun to move away from Earth, but due to the first one being on a narrow axis, we can expect more static waves within a day. It is likely that the first to receive the impact will be the inhabitants of the United States. Jared Obano, a programmer working for the research team, loses faith and goes to a beer pub for a little rest. Noticing his absence, Rhodes follows him, and with conversation instills faith in him to fight on. Upon his return, Washington manages to contact Roland, who breaks the news. Scientists change the situation. The moon has moved into an even narrower orbit, and Earth's gravity acts on the moon's gravity, and vice versa. Seeing the message sent from Europe, the research staff and authorities are shocked and puzzled by what they see. All the news is reporting on possible new shocks, surges, and gravity disturbances. News reports are overflowing with information about the impending danger and the consequences of new strikes. Rhodes heads to the White House and tells the president the terrible news that the moon will collide with the Earth exactly 39 days from now. This phenomenon will completely destroy the Earth and all life. The man had a wounded leg, so the girl helped him bandage it. After getting off the train, there were many injured passengers hurrying to get out of the dangerous place as quickly as possible. Lloyd tells his grandchildren to hurry to Washington. The family is shocked, but the children go to get their bags. The office where Kittner was able to contact Roland Emerson, but as soon as they started talking about electromagnetic waves, the connection was immediately cut off. The moon was getting closer and closer to Earth the whole time. As the Lloyds were driving with their grandchildren, they noticed that all the objects around them began to take off and accelerate. Their car takes off as do the other objects, but soon everything falls back to the ground. Roland Emerson is given an invitation to a conference, but he says he is very worried about Martina Altman. While Maddie, with the rest of the scientists, try to solve the collision problem, the girl gets a call from her ex-husband David Rhodes. The guy informs her that there are only 30 days left to meet. Upon meeting, David begins to say that secret information was given to him by a White House employee. Maddie accepts the information but doesn't have much confidence in its accuracy. The girl asks David not to expose the shot and immediately leaves. After the fall, Lloyd and the children get out of the car and try to catch the connection. Arriving at Kittner's house, the girl offers to have some cognac, followed by a little talk about the future. Their conversation is joined by Roland, who reports that he is very worried about his fiancée. The president's team considers different options for saving the Earth, and they begin to have an argument. This is when Maddie is shown the release that the ex-husband has put out. Rockets are launched to the moon to save the planet after all. Lloyd and his grandchildren find some kind of cafe and enter it. The grandchildren begin to drink water greedily, after which the cafe worker throws the family out. After this behavior by the employee, Lloyd punches him in the head. The moon splits into several pieces, and it is said that the collision will happen even 5 days early, for the president's plan did not work. Roland, Kittner, and Maddie offer the president a new plan to save the residents. The president decides to try this rescue plan. Lloyd is badly hurt, and his heart begins to hurt. The little granddaughter runs to the cafe to find aspirin. Back at the establishment, an offended employee grabs the girl's leg. The president says that Roland and Kittner should take on the role of astronauts and fly to the moon. To the strange suggestion, Kittner refuses. The man needs employees to take care of his children. Kittner says goodbye to Maddie and leaves for the plane. A curfew is imposed and all residents are prohibited from leaving their homes. Martina asks the rescuer to go with them to town, but he refuses. Bob Pierce asks for her and pays for the girl to leave. Roland informs Kittner that the bride is pregnant. At the same moment, the groom is informed of the girl's arrival. Finally, Martina meets the man she loves. Lloyd decides to tell her grandchildren an important story about their mother. During the story, the girl begins to cry, while her brother can barely hold back tears. The story too touches Lloyd's aching heart, causing him to die. Martina refuses to believe that her fiancé may not return from the moon. The girl begins to cry and begs to stay on the planet. Roland proposes to the girl, to which she agrees. The cafe man is about to leave, but the boy begs to keep the children in the building. The employee leaves them some food and leaves. After a short period of time, he does come back for them. Kittner, Roland, and the rest of the scientists go to the moon. Maddie informs the scientists that the condition of the moon is fine. If the situation does not drastically change, the landing will be successful. Kittner contacts the children by video link and learns of Grandpa's death. Kittner says goodbye to the children and cuts off communication. The astronauts land on the moon, but are unable to connect the fifth battery. It turns out that the connection on it is messed up. Maddie reports that they have a maximum of 5 hours left. Kittner despairs as it takes at least that long to replace the battery. The president's team says they need coordinates to launch the rocket. Maddie reports that the scientists are way behind schedule. The girl is very worried because there are failures in the program. There are 3 hours and 4 minutes to approach the control point. The last hours of their lives, people spend quietly, fulfilling their desires and doing things they did not have time for before. The inhabitants stayed as quiet as possible and did not create chaos. People were doing things they hadn't dared to do for a long time, looking for love, finding faith. And now the assembly was complete, and all the batteries were in place. The cleft the astronauts were in turned out to be very deep. With 1 hour and 15 minutes left to approach the checkpoint, the ground scan is almost complete, and for now there is still a chance. It remains to wait for the results of the scan, for Kittner said that the electromagnetic apparatus is ready. The astronauts report high levels of electromagnetism in the crevasse, so they ask for a little more time. Roland reports that they are already in range, but then they lose control and the craft they are on begins to plummet downward. Communication with the astronauts is lost. Roland tries to hold on to the second astronaut, but not for long. With loud screams, the girl falls down. Kittner asks Roland to transmit the coordinates to launch the rocket, but the astronaut reports a malfunction of the machine. They have less than 10 minutes to launch the rocket because it is about 7 minutes to the core. The coordinates are transmitted and the rocket is launched. The partner tells Kittner that according to his calculations they can still fly away and save themselves. The man denies being saved because he is waiting for his buddy. Roland informs him that he cannot return and asks the scientist to fly to Earth. The scientist indicates to launch the module, but Kittner asks not to. The guy presses the button after all. 3 minutes remain before detonation. Tears are gathering in Martina's eyes as she realizes that her fiancé is not coming back. Everyone is on pins and needles because there are only 10 seconds to detonation. And then the explosion happens. Roland is gone, which makes the girl very upset. Everyone starts to go outside to see if they can make it after all. Everyone looks up into the sky and watches as the moon splits apart. The president's team tries to relate to the scientists that they can do it. Everyone begins to applaud. A man goes outside and informs Maddie and the others that some scientists have been saved. The magnetic pulse has ripped the moon all the way through the line of active destruction, and the operation has been stable. The president and the others are told that the plan worked. People around the world gathered to celebrate a new beginning. Hostility around the world had died down, and it was time for healing itself. And so Kittner returned to Earth. The scientist receives a handshake from the general, after which joyful children run to meet their hero father. Kittner tells them that he loves them, then comes up to hug Maddie. The family is reborn and drives off in a car to the new world.